Atlanta.
What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everyone's doing well out there. We're talking about trades that you need to make right away. Some buy low, sell high candidates that their window is currently open and we don't want to miss it. Now, I see a lot of people out there really concerned with what's the fantasy playoff schedule like. And I get it, that's important. We'll address that here in just a couple weeks, but I'm not just going to sacrifice and overlook the entire middle half of fantasy football. It's just not worth it. A lot can change between week 6 and 13, 14, 15, 16 when you're in the fantasy playoffs. A lot can change over that time span. Planning for just that could really open you up for failure in the middle part of the season and keep you from the playoffs, and that's not what we're trying to do here right now. So I got players we're going to talk about here in today's video, and we're not wasting any more time. Brought to you by our friends at Fantrax. Let's dive in to these trades that you need to make right now. Now, let's just start off right here with Cordaro Patterson of the Atlanta Falcons. Now, maybe you just heard me say that name and were like, dude's hurt. Why am I trading for a dude that's hurt? Great question. And we're going to kind of outline these as we go through these trades, because not every one of these trades is going to work for every single league out there. But in this scenario, what do we know about Cordaro Patterson? Sure, he may be another couple weeks away from returning, but we also know he is the offense in Atlanta. He's the only bright spot that we've seen all year long, and he hasn't even played for a couple weeks. What does that tell you? Once he comes back, he's once again going to be the best part of this offense in Atlanta, which is somewhat abysmal. But with his ability to catch passes out of the backfield and really be effective and efficient on the ground, we know that Cordaro Patterson is going to have somewhat of an impact second half of the season. Now, right now, whoever owns him isn't getting anything for him. So if you can swing a trade and just have Cordaro Patterson brought in, he's a name that you can throw down into your IR spot, give yourself an opportunity for somebody down the line. And if his owner currently right now is in need of something because they just can't get by, they're not winning games, they don't have Cordaro Patterson, maybe you can get him for super cheap as a throw-in for a trade. And he's definitely somebody that I would like to have second half of the season. How about the next guy on the list? Jamar Chase of the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, a lot of people a little disappointed, I guess you could say, in Jamar Chase. He's currently wide receiver 18 overall. In 3 of the first 5 games this season, he's had less than 55 yards receiving. The team itself, the offense, doesn't look the greatest, but there's too much talent here for them to not figure it out. But owners are getting impatient. We are getting comments every single day about people wanting to trade away Jamar Chase. This is a perfect opportunity to swoop in, buy low on a stud wide receiver, add him to your roster, potentially maybe as your number 2 option. And second half of the year, when this offense starts to click, when they're really trying to make a run at the playoffs, you could definitely benefit from having Jamar Chase in your lineup there. Plus, we know we have some injuries to T. Higgins. They're kind of lingering a little bit. That means more potential targets these coming up weeks for Jamar Chase. He's definitely somebody that I would go kick the tires on and address that owner and saying, hey, what do I got to do to get Jamar Chase? I'm not selling the farm for Jamar Chase, but he may not be any cheaper than he is right now. Another wide receiver. How about Amari Cooper of the Cleveland Browns? It's the Browns' passing offense. They don't get a whole lot of credit. There's not a whole lot of street cred when you talk about the passing game of the Cleveland Browns. He's very inconsistent, very boom or bust. But what we do know is end of the season, we get Deshaun Watson back. Now, even with Jacoby Brissett, Amari Cooper is still hovering right around 10 targets a week, which is not bad. The problem is the quality of targets just aren't that great. You know the volume is going to be there. He'll be somebody who's serviceable in the meantime and could be a potential league winner down the stretch once we get Watson back in this lineup. He's definitely somebody I'm trying to get here later on in the season. What about another running back? How about DeAndre Swift? Now, his owners haven't had him for a couple weeks, and they're not going to have him again because now they're going into the bye week. We've seen Jamal Williams somewhat produce pretty well in the absence of DeAndre Swift, but what we also saw was an elite running back option in DeAndre Swift before this injury. This is one of those swing for the fences trades. There's a lot of risk associated with this, but if it pays off, if he's healthy after the bye week, you're going to get this guy at an absolute steal. Like I said, the owners have been without him for multiple weeks, and now they're not going to have him again. Can't even potentially use him till week 7, and maybe they're scrambling for other options. If you have one of those options, I'm making one of those trades. What about Alec Pierce, though, of the Indianapolis Colts? More of a lesser-known guy. A lot of guys that you could probably just have thrown into a trade. Heck, he actually may be on some waiver wires out there, which is absolutely crazy. He's had 4 straight games with increased targets. We know he has the attention of Matt Ryan. He talked about him in the post-game interview last Thursday after that horrendous game that we all had to endure and watch. But he knows that Alec Pierce could be a big part of this offense. And with the target share he's seen, and a busted up run game nonetheless. I mean, this is a guy who could really rack up some PPR points and is somebody I'm trying to get here second half of the season. How about another wide receiver in Keenan Allen, Los Angeles Chargers? We know his owners have been without him for multiple weeks. He's going to be coming back soon. I love how the Los Angeles Chargers are taking their time with Keenan Allen. They're not trying to rush him back. They're utilizing the pieces they already have, maybe just a little bit more, and giving Keenan time to come back and come back healthy. We know this is one of the best passing offenses in all of the league. Once Keenan returns, we'll probably see a slight downtick in receptions to Austin Eckler, more than likely Gerald Everett as well. But Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, we know what they are in this offense. We've seen it before. We're just waiting for him to get healthy. If there's a desperate owner out there, Keenan Allen is somebody that I'm trying to swoop up. But now we have a run on players that I'm looking to sell. And I'm going to start off here with the Philadelphia Eagles and Miles Sanders. As of right now, he's still a top 15 option in fantasy football, but he's seen less than 60 yards in 2 of his last 3 games, and that's kind of what we've come to expect in this offense. It's what we talked about all offseason. There's going to be huge weeks for players, but they're not going to always be overly consistent. Look at Devontae Smith. A couple weeks ago, dude had like 200 yards at halftime. Haven't really seen much of him like that since. A.J. Brown has had a couple down weeks. Dallas Goedert, somewhat consistent there, but the running game, inconsistent as well. We're just seeing Jalen Hurts steal a lot of those goal line touchdowns once again. Miles Sanders as a top 15 option is somebody that you can get out of now, sell high, and maybe give yourself a safer option here second half of the season. What about Deontay Johnson of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Now, the targets are there, which is great because you still have that selling point of Deontay Johnson. But all targets are not quality targets, and now we're starting to see the uptick in George Pickens. Plus, Deontay Johnson, not going deep down the field, has had a couple difficult matchups and now gets Tampa Bay. You have to expect that sometime they're going to want to get this run game going with Najee Harris. They're going to have to if they want to have a chance here. Deontay Johnson, somebody you can sell high with some name value and get something in return. What about Jeff Wilson Jr. of the San Francisco 49ers? In this one, he may be like a week away. We may be able to hold on to him for one more week. I love the matchup this week going up against Atlanta, but he's all the way up inside the top 20 overall. Elijah Mitchell is going to be coming back here in the next coming weeks, but we also just saw Tevin Coleman really get involved in this offense just last week. What is that going to look like going forward? Are we going to start losing some touchdown opportunities to Jeff Wilson the way of Tevin Coleman? With that and Elijah Mitchell coming back, I'm a little bit worried that we're going to start seeing a decline in value. I still like Jeff Wilson Jr., but I don't think his value is ever going to be higher than it is right now. Let's be honest. You didn't draft Jeff Wilson Jr. to be the cornerstone of your team. Maybe you picked him up in waivers. Maybe you have a bunch of other options. Maybe he's your running back 3 right now, and you have holes at wide receiver or tight end. His value will never get higher. This is a great time to sell Jeff Wilson Jr. if you don't need him and if you have a hole somewhere else. And there's another guy that really fits this description as well. It's Kenneth Walker, who I also have as a sell high right now, which may be puzzling because he was the #1 waiver claim for so many people this week. Why are we selling someone that we just tried so hard to get? This is really team by team specific. If you need a running back, if you are desperate to start a running back, you have to hold on to Kenneth Walker. Maybe you've stashed him for a couple weeks. Maybe he's your running back 4 on your roster. Maybe you like the kid coming out of college, you drafted him, and he's been buried on your bench. Whatever it may be, if you don't need Kenneth Walker, now is the time to sell high. The hype is through the roof with Rashad Penny being out for the year. With that being said, you can basically go and improve any piece on your team that you need right now by trading Kenneth Walker, an unproven guy who we haven't really seen be the lead guy for multiple weeks in an NFL offense. And maybe you can find yourself a piece that really, solidifies your overall roster. So take that one team by team, but Kenneth Walker's value is super high right now. Chris Godwin is a guy I'm trying to trade for right now. We've seen him start a little bit slow, but a lot of people have forgotten that this guy's coming off of a torn ACL, was banged up to start the season, so he's going a little bit slow here, and that is okay. I mean, as the season goes on, he's going to get stronger and stronger and better and better. And we know what Chris Godwin is in this offense. He's going to be the legit 1A or 1B to Mike Evans in this passing game. A passing game which throws the ball almost more than any other team in the NFL. Oh yeah, and just so happens to have the greatest quarterback of all time throwing him the football. Now, does that mean that Chris Godwin's going to start going for 100 yards every single week with a touchdown? No, probably not, but the touchdowns are coming, and so is more volume. We've already seen that volume be there for Chris Godwin. It's only going to increase from here and become more and more consistent the healthier he gets. I love trying to go after Chris Godwin, but maybe you just listen to this show and you're like, Jake, but I don't know who to offer. I don't know who I should be getting in return for these guys. You didn't really give me those names, that information, and I did that on purpose, and I'll tell you exactly why. I could list another couple names, but that doesn't mean that you own those guys. It doesn't mean that the player you're trying to go after has those guys on their team. So this is what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to tell you exactly how to go about making these trades. First thing you need to do is identify the team that these players are on. When you look at those teams, you need to then identify their weaknesses. What do they need? Do they need a running back? Do they need a tight end? Do they need a wide receiver? What do I have extra of that I can offer up for those players to make it somewhat realistic? Not everybody plays with a bunch of idiots that'll just take a bunch of garbage off your roster. You need to make sure that you're identifying what you want, identifying what you have to give up, and then really starting the communication between that owner. It's like selling cars, and maybe you're not a salesman, but kind of do what we just did in this video here. This is the reasons as to why. Look what we did for Curtis Samuel right there at the end, listing the reasons. Wentz is injured. Drama in the locker room, potentially with Ron Rivera calling out his quarterback. Brian Robinson is back. You have to put together some talking points for the player that you're trying to sell or acquire, vice versa, and that's how you really make good trades in fantasy football. You don't just go out there and, I'm just going to offer so-and-so for your stud here, and hopefully it works out. That's not the way that most fantasy football trades go down. Identify the weaknesses and then try to sell it to the opposing team, and if that's the case, you can probably get away with a lot of trades in fantasy football just by sounding educated when you make the trade offer. That's the most important thing. But if you have questions, make sure you leave them down below in the comment section. There are a lot of interactive members here on this channel that will help talk through trades. Myself and Kyle try to hop in the comments as much as we possibly can, but there's a lot of interactive people that are trying to help out people in this community. So make sure you take advantage of that. Leave those comments down below. Hit the like button if you haven't already, and go find yourself some trades to make to really start dominating this middle part of the season. And then we'll worry about the end of the season here in the next coming weeks. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button. I'm going to get out of here for the day, getting ready to enjoy our weekend of fantasy football once again here in week 6. But hopefully you have a great rest of your day, a great week, and we'll talk to you later.